Hey everyone, welcome back to the Art2Life podcast. I'm now in Mallorca. I'm sitting right in front of the art studio here. I'm at a workshop. The place is called La Serenia. It's amazing. This is our first morning. Everyone just went to lunch, so I thought I'd grab this moment to record a thing. This place is kind of beautiful, and what I love about it is there's all these goat bells. There's goats here up in the mountains, and they're shepherding them, and you hear this little tinkling all the time, especially in the morning when they're coming down out of the mountains. It's really something. But anyway, I just love these workshops, and it's a place where people come together to sort of support each other. Really, you know, we do a session when we start where we're figuring out what it is. People are coming here to kind of start a new chapter, to get more clear about what's possible for them. And it's helpful to come and take a break, make art, but that's what we're doing. We're talking about this idea of how do we do this? How do we lean into the vision of ourselves, right? What's possible? What's possible now, right? And some people have come back a couple times, right? And other people are here for the first time, this workshop. We have about 15, 17 people here. And we kind of go around the circle. And that's kind of what I say. It's like, this is an opportunity to fortify your belief and about what's possible. We lose that when we're by ourselves in our studio. And I think it's because when we're making art, if you're doing it properly, you're trying to learn new things, you're pushing yourself, and it doesn't leave you feeling entirely confident. Art making makes artists, and they're always the greatest people because they're not super egotistical, because they're doing something that it just kind of gives you a lot of humility, I think. Anyway, I just love artists, and I especially love these workshops because the people that are here, they flew a long way, they're taking the time out, but it's all about getting fortified for what's coming, and people are sharing with me their work. This is where I am, and the question I posed last night was, be thinking about what it is you want to do next. Where do you want to go? What is it? Really dream, because yes, you can come here and you can learn some things about color and value and design and everything. But what makes it really worth it is to get more clear, get more momentum, believe that you can do more. And when you're in a group like this, and people are reflecting back to you what your work's like, things become more possible. And so I'm going to talk today, and this is kind of a part of a keynote I recently gave around belief. And I wanted to go into it more, and I think it's powerful and might be helpful. So we're trying to hold the belief of a possibility for ourselves. And we're making something that hasn't been made before, so that's challenging. It's one thing if you want to make the most beautiful bakery in the world. You fly around the world and you look at bakeries and you write down your favorite desserts. But when and so you got kind of a plan, at least you got something to look at to do this. But when you don't have a plan, and because your art, if you do this right, it doesn't exist yet. No one's made anything like your art before. So then it becomes more challenging to see it. And so how do you do this? How do you hold it? Obviously, you have a consistent art practice. It's really helpful if someone likes your work. That gives you a lot of confidence. It's great to come to workshops where people can give you information. There's people ahead of you, people behind you, and you can learn more about where you are in this fuzzy land, right? Like it's a journey. This is what's so interesting to me. That this process is literally like kind of in the dark. You're kind of groping around, but you can figure it out. And it's different for everyone. And I just love the stories, man, the stories of people that are here and what their challenges are and what brought them here. It's that is the most interesting thing to hear, all the different ways that people come to the realization that this art thing is something they want to do in their life. That now is the time, right? And there's that voice for many people. It never goes away. You could ignore it and you have a different career, but it's always in the back of your subconscious or just right below the surface of things. It's something I notice in workshops when people come. There's periods, long periods, where it's almost like dormancy. It's just there. And maybe some of you listening, you know what I'm talking about. And that's why you're an artist. And your soul doesn't care. Your soul doesn't mind if you postpone this, by the way. It's the most abiding, respectful part of yourself. It knows what's right. It's like someone who knows the answer, but they have so much humility and there's no ego in it. And they'll just go, you know what? I know the answer, but I'm just not going to say anything because it's really for them to find on their own. Those kind of teachers, they're like the best kind, and so your soul's a little like that. It already knows what you want to do and you can feel it, right? And that's what's so cool about this. Like there's lots of indicators. But it takes belief. It takes you dreaming, imagining what it could look like. And this is for creating anything. It's when you want to create something that's meaningful, that's personal, it takes some vision, some imagining. And I want to talk about how we hold that belief because it's easy to lose it, right? It takes that one art teacher to say you're not very good or a bad experience or things get in the way in your life, right? It's easily driven over by life's challenges. So there's some components to holding a belief, and there's 3 of them. And I want to go into all 3. You need these 3. These 3 will support that belief. It's vision, authenticity, and energy. And I want to just talk about those because you need them. So vision is that place you're heading, to hold that, to get clear about what that looks like. And know that this is as personal a thing that nobody can hold this for you and you need to hold it. And this is what's going to pull you through. It's vision. This is so important. When, there's all kinds of distractions, when other people are telling you to do something else or someone doesn't like your work, you're going to come back to this vision. This is what a visionary is. This is what, when anyone's doing something that hasn't been done and nothing's around you, especially in the beginning, to support that, it's super hard. But it's the vision, like to really realize that's like a sacred charter. It's your manifesto. It's your North Star. You have to love this thing and realize it's like your life jacket. It's going to get you where you need to go. It's so important. It's what keeps you on the surface of things. So that's the first piece around vision, how important it is, and to know that you hold one. And if you do, you're visionary. This is what change makers are all about. They have this. Things don't happen in your life because they just happen and all of a sudden you have an exciting life. It happens because you had a vision. That's what comes first before anything. You have even a sense of it. That's what has to happen first. It's you holding it. And it's kind of great because there isn't anybody to help you with this, which is great. You don't need people. It's you. It's your thing. You're holding it. And that's powerful. The second piece of this around vision is you need to surround yourself. Be with others who are also similar in that they're holding a vision too, to know those people. If you're by yourself, you feel like an oddball. And again, this is, artists are that, right? They're searching, and to have connection. We have a huge priority in Art2Life around community. That's why I do this podcast. I love talking to people, and that's why I do workshops, and that's what we're here doing, you know, and it makes you feel normal. And when you stand shoulder to shoulder with people that hold this, it just feels more possible. It's an easy thing to neglect, but when you're by yourself, there's more likelihood you'll lose your steam. So I'm saying that, and it's why I really try and do those Sunday vlogs and try to keep a conversation going, because I need that. I need that. And it's also helpful for other people. I've learned that that's the number one thing that we need to have to continue. Um, and also know that getting clear, figuring out where it is you're going isn't always evident. And it doesn't come always from, you're born with it. Many times, for me, this was the case, many times it comes out of hard things. It comes out of times when heartbreak happens. It comes out of times when you feel like you can't go on, or you feel particularly worthless, Those are very fertile times for creating vision and redoing and changing. You get to these places where I can't keep doing this way. I'm kind of basically pretty unhappy. It's then that you're going to change. It's then that you're commit to a new course. So I share that because it sounds all so perfect. Well, just have a vision and everything, but how we get it, and it takes some work to really be thinking. It's all art making. Everything's just about increasing awareness. What feels more like me? Like, where do I want to go? Where does this work want to go? What can I imagine? How could things be better? Where do I feel most alive? It's all about this aliveness. So that's just to have that awareness that this journey is going to have rocky parts of this. It's an up and down thing, and discovering and getting clarity. Sometimes you get the most clarity from some of the hardest things. Usually when things are really hard, I always say this, that the learning is happening very, very quickly. You can learn in a nice, happy workshop experience, or sometimes you can learn the hard way. I remember, and I've told this story before, I had to give a talk, and it was many years ago, and I was pretty nervous about it, and it was in front of like 400 people. I'd never done anything like that, and I basically lost my train of thought on stage because I was so self-conscious, and the most humiliating experience of my life. I just wandered around this huge stage. It was this formal event. People paid for it, and I lost my train of thought, and it was the most humiliating thing I've ever experienced. Just so awful, and it was such a powerful learning. It came really fast. In 1 2-hour session, that's how long the talk was. I eventually got it and I talked, but it was 3 or 4 minutes of absolute silence. People thought I had lost my mind, and they all knew I was terrified and I was so self-conscious. But I learned very much in a short period of time. I learned how to talk in front of people. I learned that, what I feared, the biggest nightmare. People have the biggest fear of public speaking, that and death. Those are the two ones. And that I did that. I made a total fool of myself. But then what I realized was that it doesn't matter. People don't care, and they just want the information. And I'm not an orator, and I'm probably not that good at it. And get out of just stopping such an ego head and just tell them what they need. I just learned how to not take myself so seriously. It was a painful, very fast lesson, but I share that because when we learn quickly, things get hard. And when things get hard, we're learning quickly, right? We don't always, but there's lessons in there, and it helps take us to and clarifies our vision. So I've shared these three things, right? We've got vision, we've got authenticity, and energy. And all three of these support and allow you to hold this belief. So let me dive into authenticity. Authenticity just number one, it comes with your operating system. It's who you are, and that's kind of fantastic. It's the essential part of you. It's who you are naturally. You already are authentic. You don't have to be that. You just have to trust that. Uh, you can't not be authentic. You just have to learn to express this by getting clear about what it is that feels like you, what it is that brings you alive, what it is that you like, and what it is that you don't. I was just explaining to the workshop here that making art, is just a bunch of decisions. It's a bunch of decisions about what you like and what you don't. You say yes to orange, no to blue, yes to green, no to red. And then you change things and you make all these decisions. That's discernment. And what's cool about discernment is you get better at it. You can learn it. You get better and better at making decisions. They get more nuanced. That's what's so cool. And by the way, the artifact of making all those decisions is your art. And because you get better at making decisions, more subtle, it's like a master chess player. They're amazing at their decisions, right? But when I play, it's pretty crude. Your art gets better and better and better, right? But what you're really doing is you're just getting to be like really good at you, you know? You know how you don't go to those movies now that you know you don't like? How many times do you have to go to those like movies you don't like to know don't do it? You do it a bunch when you're 20, and then you do it maybe once or twice in your 30s, and then at 40 you're like, nope, I don't like those. I always feel bad. I don't want to go. So that's what it is. That's what your authenticity is. It comes with your operating system. Phew, don't have to think about that. You already got it. But this is powerful. This is how you've got to really customize this belief. It comes from you, and authenticity is like your superpower. Your authenticity has a direct connection to soul. Your soul, the part of you that is deep within you, that knows what you need to do in this life, that you listen to sometimes. It's very quiet. It doesn't yell at you. It's subtle. It's under the surface. This is it's always rooting for you. Your soul is just like your best friend in the world, and it doesn't care about making money. It doesn't care what's popular. It doesn't have all that practical stuff that we worry about. It doesn't care about that. What it wants for you is in this life to feel more alive, to feel more and more you, and to become more and more you. And it's kind of great, right? We kind of forget, like, when you've made those decisions from that place, and it's the inner wisdom. It's such a strong part of you, and that's connected. That's your authenticity. It's that deep core, essential part of you, and we need that. Usually, in our art making, figuring it out in vision, in getting this belief going, soul is a big part of this, especially when we don't know where to go, especially when it's murky, right? When we're in a place in our art and we're just kind of trying things, and we don't have any instructions, we don't have a clear roadmap, we just have to feel into it. And I kind of like that. I'm going to kind of like do that. It's those decisions which are so valuable. It's a super essential, powerful part of ourselves, and that is your authenticity. That's the sort of like the under the surface part of it. It is also, and this is the third piece, authenticity is what creates the value in the vision, in the belief. That's what will do it. That's where your art becomes more valuable. When it becomes more like you, it becomes more different than anybody else's. It becomes highly personal, and it's powerful. That is literally what creates the value. I mean, dollars and cents. If your work is unique, if your work, when I say that, is like you, if it feels more like you, then it's going to be different than everybody else on the planet, because everyone is completely, utterly unique. We just got to figure ourselves out and be able to clearly get that into our art, right? By just saying, is this in? Is this out? Do I like this? Do I like that? How do I put this mixture together? How are all those decisions turning into my art? And when we do that and you put it out in the world, That's what people want. People want to experience. They want to feel alive, and they want to experience things that are different in their life. And that's why people buy art. They choose things that they've never been able to, they'd never be able to make, People who are non-artists, by the way, like this is why they're coming. They look at what you make, right? And I know you've seen this. People are like, "Wow, you're in this room with all these materials and you make all this." I mean, it's to so many people, they have no connection to their creativity. They just look at this like, where, how do you generate all this stuff? And you're doing all these kind of things, and why that? I mean, it is so interesting to people. Other people who, they would love to do this and they sense its value, but the closest they can get to it is they can buy your art and they'll bring it home and they'll hang it on the wall, and they go, there's something, whatever she's doing, I don't know, it speaks to me. And they hang it on their wall. It helps them because it's connecting to that part of themselves that they recognize that they want to discover who they are. And they don't do art, they don't make things, but they recognize it in other people's work. Art serves that purpose, right? For so many people. And I love that they take your things home and they hang it in their house. It's so intimate. We have this place in our bedroom, this big wall, and I just want to put your art there. And it's always amazing to me, like, wow, really? But I kind of get it, because think what that does. Like it just expands their world, so that's authenticity. We need to have that. We need to have that. Really leaning into that as part of this belief. Like that's what's going to get you there. That's the currency, right? It's not the size of the studio. It's not the materials you use. None of that. It feels like that. And we postpone. I can't make my art until I have a studio, or I don't have time, and all the reasons we don't do this. But those aren't the things that get in the way. Ultimately, what's going to solve and keep the thing going is this connection to that vision and that authenticity. The third piece of this, right? We've got the vision, we've got authenticity, is around energy, and really feeling into that. And when I say energy, I'm talking about feeling more alive. I'm talking about what it is that makes you feel alive, what gives you juice. So there's many ways to describe it, but we got to get really good at doing more of that. First of all, noticing in our day what that is. That's like the first thing in the Creative Visionary program we do, by the way. The Creative Visionary program, for those of you who haven't done it before, it comes out in the spring. It's coming out this year. It's a deep dive. It's 12 weeks. And about a third of it is a lot about what we're talking about now. And it's so, so important. It's the first part of the program because it's the most important part. Yes, we're going to teach you how to do color and design, all those things. You can learn those on YouTube. We do an amazing job of it. But what we're teaching, what we're helping people is getting connected to that life force. Why do sometimes we feel better than others? This is what I was asking me. It was sort of a strategy for being able to live better and being able to make more art. For many years before I was teaching so much, the primary way I survived was making paintings, and I made a lot, and I still do it. But I needed my energy to be, good. And when it wasn't there, I just made work that just didn't have any juice to it. It was kind of serious, like learning how, like these different ways of being. When I made art when I was a certain way, it came really easy. I enjoyed it more, and other people liked it better, and I sold more. And then when I made art or tried to make art, I usually couldn't even get it off the ground, but some pretty half-baked stuff. I made a lot of kind of mediocre work. And sometimes it would sell, but it wasn't something almost like, oh my God, thank God someone bought that so it can just disappear, kind of awful. But you can tell, right? You can look at your work and the work I'm talking about. If you look back on your work, look at those paintings, look at the sculptures, the photography, whatever it is, where it's like, oh my God, right there, that, I made a lot of mediocre things, but there's those three things that I did, or that one That's what we got to focus on, because that's the mix. That's, you did it before, and you got to like understand what's going on there. And a lot of what's going on there is, for whatever reason you were involved in, you felt really alive. It's such an important part of this. Workshops are places where that can happen. There are places like this where, you're seeing different things, there's different people, there's, all kinds of, we're doing black and white. It's the first day at the workshop. And everyone's doing kind of a similar thing, everyone's different, of course, but it's really fun to walk around the room and see what everyone's doing. It's kind of amazing. Normally I'll do something and it's like, that's it. That's all I got to look at. The only thing that's changing in my room is this little square. But here, I get kind of bored of what I'm doing. I just walk to the next table and there's 6 things. And that one, there's another 12, and all kinds of stuff is going. And so getting filled up by new things, doing things you love, whether it's horseback riding or running or reading books or talking to those certain people, you're curating your life to optimize for energy, to optimize for feeling alive. And the invitation, right? I talked about vision. I talked about authenticity. What are the things that bring you alive? Like, that's not a bad use of time to figure that out. Because if you do, and then you do participate in those more, then your energy increases, and the come from that you're working towards, your art, and how that will shift what you're doing. You're more daring, it's more personal, you feel more like you. You hear that saying, well, bring your best self, show up in the right way. And that's the best version of you when you are rested, when you are feeling good, And I know I've made art and I've taught art and I've done all kinds of things, and there's just different ways. You can do it the hard way, or you can do it the easy way. I'm sitting here talking to you here. I flew all this way so I could be in this environment. It's kind of crazy, but I put such a premium on being able to be with groups, with people, to learn from them. I love being in a place that I think is beautiful, and this is one of those places. And it's like, and I'm going to do art here, and it's going to shift what I'm doing, because my energy, I have a lot of energy because of the situation I put in. You just set it up for yourself, and don't worry if you can't. It's not like just go on vacation for 3 months. It's just making some small decisions to move towards what it is that lights you up. It's like, okay, maybe you just, instead of driving to get the coffee, you just walk in the morning and go on a beautiful walk on the way. Or maybe you, do something different that is a little bit more interesting to you in your day. That's how it starts. So, doing what you love gives you energy. It's really the key to unlocking all the possibilities for your work. The second piece around this energy is that, and this is not taught. I don't know people who talk about this. I wasn't taught this in art school. This thing of energy, when you have it, when you have a lot, if you really get this going, you can feel pretty great. And when you have extra energy, you're like much better, because you can like help people, and teachings like this. Like I love doing this, and I get so much from it, and I have a lot, and it kind of overflows, because you can just build on it once you get this going. It's like money in the bank. It just kind of like builds and builds and builds. The overflow of a person in overflow energy, the natural chain reaction is creativity. You can't help it. You make stuff. You want to make stuff. It's just what happens to a human being. You become more creative. I don't know why that is, but that's the connection. The connection between doing what you love and being more creative. You'll come up with something. You'll create, a new business. You'll start a new book. You'll make a new painting. You'll start a new relationship. Whatever it is, it's like coming from that place of extra is so good, right? We know the feeling, it's talked about, right? You can come from a place of scarcity or you can come from a place of abundance. What I'm talking about is abundant, more paint, more possibilities for yourself, more hopefulness. And everything I'm talking about right here has nothing to do with money, has nothing to do with, you know, it's an inside job. This whole thing that I'm talking about, this is just stuff you do. You can just do in your car. You don't have to change anything to get this going. So that's a powerful idea that if you want to be more creative, if you want to make more things and really get going, and if that vision, if your belief of you're imagining what that could be, that you hope you want, that's how you're going to make it. It's going to be the juice you have to do it. I cannot believe what's transpired in Art2Life just because I had a bunch of energy, because I started doing things that brought me out of a really hard part of my life, like the worst experiences, like everything fell apart. I lost all my money. That's why I say that sometimes the belief and the vision comes from heartbreak, right? I put things back together, but I did it in a way this time where it's like, you know what? I'm only going to put things in that I really like. I was getting really selective, and I started really choosing. And lo and behold, that just had all kinds of repercussions, and it's led to doing more and more. I remember having a dream. If I could go, my dream was part of my dream, part of my belief, my hope was that what if I could do art with people anywhere in the world, and I could get enough people to come, and that way I could afford to do it. And that's what I'm doing. I remember it was like, that would be an incredible life. And now our workshops sell out, and now it's just a matter of trying to make some time to go to all the places, right? But it's literally that happened, and it happened because I did some small ones, I did some locally, got into it, and it's built momentum. So there's also, and this leads me to my third point around energy, that we can be scarcity minded with that as well. Don't give too much because, you won't have enough for yourself, right? Don't, rush in and get two helpings because everyone's going to come and there won't be anything left for you, right? We're afraid going in that we're going to run out, that there won't be enough for us. But energy doesn't work that way. And I'm the living proof of this. I have people say this, it's like I give a lot, and I do, but I get so much back. Energy is a funny thing in the world, in the universe. When you put out into the field, out into the world, whatever it is, teaching, or you put your art out there, or you talk, or you donate, whatever the things are where you're influencing, you're putting you out. If it's coming from a place of genuine, you're truly what feels right for you, the universe responds and it sends back just as much as you put in, usually more. And it comes back in the forms of amazing people, incredible opportunities, synchronistic, magical, like, oh my God, I wanted to do a thing and I talked about it on a podcast or wherever. And then it turns out that person heard and they called me and said, oh my God, I can connect you with this person. It's that kind of thing that we have to, there's a sort of a public component of this belief thing that if we share it, like this is a strategy. If we share the vision, if we share the belief, our hopes, our dreams, that there's a lot that goes on that we don't have to worry about, but we just kind of put it out. We help people, we share what we're after, and there's cool ways that it kind of comes back to us. And it really does. It is not a draining, the sand in the hourglass. That's not what energy's like. It's like waves. You drop a pebble in and those waves go out and then they come back and they come back bigger. And then you put more in and more goes out and it comes in and it goes out. It's like the tide. That's just the natural rhythms of this thing. It becomes dark, it becomes day. The tide goes in, tide goes out. We breathe in, we breathe out. We put our energy out in the world, and then it comes back. And it sounds ridiculous, but this is like this is how it works. This is how it's worked for me anyway. And it just keeps building. It's kind of remarkable and so fun, because you get to involve more and more people. There's just a lot of you're going out in a bigger way, and that impacts others. And there's more and more that comes back. So we're looking this belief, this idea that we have a sense of it in the beginning, what we want our lives to look like, what we want our art to look like, how those mesh together. And we can get, it can be murky in the beginning. It can just be a feeling. Like sometimes we figure out our art by just standing on a beach and saying, right here, right now, that feeling of that wind, the smell of this, the texture, whatever it is, I want that. Like, I love that. How do I do art like that? How do I live in a place more like this? How could this be a bigger part of my life? It's pretty abstract, right? But this is how we do it. This is how we bring what we love in. It's like an inhalation. We soak up all the things around us and we put it back out with how we want it to be. And the clarity with which we emit, we put out into the field, it becomes more clear, right? When we start something, we don't really know. I mean, it's interesting at this workshop, people are saying who come here, they've never done my approach, and there's a woman here who is an amazing artist, working 10 years, but she always has an outcome in her mind. And she was saying this, she was like, I don't understand, like, am I supposed to think of how this is supposed to look? Because I don't even really know. And it's like, no, you don't need to worry about that. Just pay attention to what's going on right here, right now, and how that feels. And that will give you a lot of information to take the next step. So sometimes these ideas or the dreams, the visions, they're not always figured out. But as you go further, they get more clear. And then you talk about it better. You make art more about it better. It becomes more and more clear. And when it gets clear, it gets stronger. And when it gets stronger, other people can hear it. If I stood on a mountaintop and I yelled in a megaphone and I read a paragraph, that's going to be kind of challenging. For like, what's the point? But if I get up there and say one thing really, really loud that has a super tons of meaning, if I got up there and just said, everyone can be an artist, which I probably would say, that's very powerful. But if I got up there and said, everyone can be an artist and you need to live in South Dakota, and if you want to do primitive art, you should study in France. And for those of you who want to do realism, you need to study the Grand Masters and color, like it's lost. But what is the one thing? What is at the root of where you're going? What does it want to feel like? And by the way, this is the coolest process. This is what it means to be alive. I cannot think, this is the creative path, by the way. They also call it the creative path. This is a gift to be in this life, to be able to experience this, to be able to have the luxury, and it is a luxury, to have enough food and shelter, to where you're not just surviving, to be able to ask, what else? What else can I do? What would make, if I get to the end of my life and I look back, what would have I wanted to make? It is such a great question. And it opens up an entire journey and an incredible odyssey. And you find like-minded people on that journey. And it's just the most worthwhile thing to do. And for us, it's called art making. And we get this other kind of cool benefit that we get to make things on the way. We make art and we throw it over our shoulder, then we make another. And there's this trail of things we've made behind us that are evidence of us getting more and more clear, and the art's getting better and better. And yes, there's people back there picking through it, collectors and galleries. Oh my God, this is so good. That's great. But it's really important to know that it's like what you're making next. Where are you going next? And this was the question that I started this workshop with last night. Where are you going next? What feels most juicy for you? What would make you feel more alive? Anyway, that's where we're at in this workshop. So it's really fun. Everyone's at lunch, and I just snuck down here right in front of the workshop, the art studio, to share that because that's what we're doing. That's what we do with the workshop. By the way, the reason that I get that going because what we're trying to do, and this is a secret weapon for those of you who want to teach, you want to do workshops and stuff and learning how to get things going for people. Here's the secret. If people feel more free, if they feel comfortable, if they believe they can do something, like I say that everyone can be an artist, there's no such thing as talent, like that's a fact, period. So it's not made up, but not everyone believes that at first. But if once they get that, and we're in a group, we're in a container where people are supportive and we're all trying to learn and there's no one better or worse and we're just trying to figure stuff out, it gets really clear. It gets really, it gets powerful for people to say and be more free. And when they're free, my work is so much easier because if people are free, they make really cool things because they're all different. When they're free, they make work like themselves. And I was sharing this with someone a few minutes ago before we went to break, and I was saying, your soul it loves this. It loves this workshop because it's finally getting to have its way with you. It's getting like, oh my God, finally, you're not telling me what I should do. Your soul just sits down there, just waits. It's not going to do anything. So it won't tell you anything. It's just super like, it'll wait your whole life. But if you're willing to give it some freedom, if you're willing to follow that a little bit, just listen a little bit, take 20 minutes and listen to it. Look at your work with a little more openness and ask yourself, does this feel like where I want to go? Well, then you're tapping into something really, really powerful. And that authenticity, the vision, and the energy, and you get those three components working to support where you want to go, what that belief is. There's very little to stop that dream coming true. You guys, it's so fun to talk to you, and I love this, and it's just a particularly amazing day today for me because this is the first day of the workshop, so it's kind of great to feel like you're here with me, and so thanks so much for being here. We have if you go to art2life.com and click on podcasts, there's a little yellow bar when that page opens up on the right, and it says ask a question or leave a comment. It's a little yellow bar. You can click on it and you can record something. It's really easy. Lots of people do it, and I love it because I get some really great ideas and I get great questions. So if something of what I've said is interesting, or if something I've said is particularly helpful, or if you have a really good question, I'd love to hear it. And you can go ahead and go do that. The other piece of this is if you find this helpful, if you could share this with someone who is maybe struggling or losing momentum or wants to get back to their work, or maybe they're interested just they're creatively curious. This is the sweet spot for me. I would love you to share this with them because if the more people we can get following what it is they love, the better this whole place, this whole world. I mean, I'm telling you, art's going to save the planet, and I really believe this. This is the solution, and we can all help. So I would love it if you share with them, or if you'd love, leave a review. That's really great. I really read all of those. It really helps. And there's something about when you do that, the algorithm says, hey, this is actually interesting to people, and they send it to more people. Crazy, right? Anyway, you guys, thanks so much for being here. I really, really appreciate it. I hope you have the best day. Thanks. Okay, bye.